Ivorians will decide. Wadr covers.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday here in Dakar and 1 o'clock in Porto Novo. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. First, our top stories. Rift Valley fever virus spreads across 6 of Senegal's 14 regions with 21 confirmed deaths.
Our technical teams have identified several types of vector mosquitoes, including Chez, which is particularly active in the Saint-Louis region.
Audit exposes systemic weaknesses in Liberia, puts domestic debt above $92 million.
There are some ministries and agencies that will go about committing the government of Liberia outside of the approved budgetary allotment.
In Côte d'Ivoire, attention marks the electoral campaign ahead of Saturday's poll, and Ghanaian police deploy special team to investigate mysterious death of Senegalese goalkeeper in Kumasi. Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Let's begin here in Senegal, where the Rift Valley fever virus is gradually spreading across the country, raising concerns among citizens and public health officials. The disease is now present in 6 of the country's 14 regions, including Dakar and Saint Louis, which has emerged as the epicenter of the outbreak. In response, health authorities are working to develop a comprehensive response plan aimed at containing the epidemic and preventing further transmission. Chris Fatisha reports.
As of Monday, October 20, 258 cases had been recorded, including 192 recoveries and 21 deaths. The virus is now circulating in 6 of the country's 14 regions, with a high concentration in the north, particularly in the St. Louis region, where the vector mosquito has been identified. Dr. Ibrahima Chez, Senegalese Minister of Health, emphasizes the urgency of the situation.
Our technical teams have identified several types of vector mosquitoes, including Chez, which is particularly active in the Saint-Louis region. Human cases have also been confirmed and signs of virus have been detected on mosquitoes and beetles. Mosquitoes and beetles change the virus.
According to Minister Chez, the Senegalese government has deployed a coordinated strategy to contain the disease. It involves the Ministries of Health, Agriculture, Environment and Hydraulics.
The government has put in place a multi-sectoral response that has taken strong and immediate measures, including the activation of epidemic management committees with the hospitalization of serious cases and the follow-up at home of simple cases. We can also note the vaccination of livestock in order to limit the spread of the virus in the animals.
A large-scale local communication campaign is also underway across the country to inform people about the preventive measures to adopt and avoid rapid spread of the disease.
Chris Fatisha filed a report. We head now to Liberia, where the country's domestic debt stands at $92.1 million, along with an additional $259.4 million Liberian dollars in liabilities. These figures were disclosed following an audit conducted by the General Auditing Commission, GAC. Auditing, according to the GAC, there were doubts about approximately 11% of the reviewed debt claims, including their validity or insufficient documentation to support the obligations. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Brian Parker reports that the audit report reveals systemic weaknesses in how domestic debt is processed, recorded, and reported.
The debts were recorded between January 1, 1980 and December 31, 2024. Liberia's Auditor General Gaswa Jackson emphasized the importance of these findings, highlighting that the audited figures reflect the current balances of Liberia's domestic debt. He stated that the GSC report has been officially submitted to the National Legislature for review by the Public Accounts Committee.
As part of the process, there were relevant documentation presented for a number of claims. Plus or minus 11% of the claims were qualified. 92.1 million US and 259.4 million Liberian dollars.
The legislature is expected to conduct public hearings and subsequently provide recommendations to President Joseph Boakai. Auditor General Gaswa Jackson also presented several key recommendations aimed at enhancing domestic debt management in the country. One of the primary proposals is to enact legislation that establishes a debt-to-GDP ratio, a fundamental requirement for effective financial management systems worldwide.
We have also proposed that all claims emanating from government ministries, agencies, and commissions should have been budgeted for as part of the approved budget before the Ministry of Finance subject these claims to validation. There are some ministries and agencies that will go about committing the government of Liberia outside of the approved budgetary allotment.
Economists caution that excessive debt could crowd out public sector investment, divert resources from essential public services, and to create inflationary pressures. However, Finance Minister Augustine Gafwan says the government would begin making payments of these debts. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
This is the countdown to the 2025 presidential election in Côte d'Ivoire.
As we continue a countdown, Jean-Louis Bion, a descent from the PDCI, Democratic Party of Côte d'Ivoire, is one of the 5 candidates in the presidential election on October 25. He embodies renewal and says he wants to reconcile Côte d'Ivoire with itself. Here is Jean-Louis Bion, or The Hope for Renewal, a portrait by Francis Boniface.
Jean-Louis Bion, 60 years old, advocates for a generational change. He embodies the vision of Côte d'Ivoire, where virtuous governance and economic efficiency prevail. The businessman focuses on private sector investment, which he believes will reduce unemployment and increase the purchasing power of Ivorians. His program is based on key priorities, such as combating the high cost of living and ensuring sound democratic and economic governance.
I
was in front of the Ivorian business community, and they know very well that together we are going to have a much closer partnership. Next, I give priority to the private sector. I want growth to be driven by the private sector, not by public investment. And for that, I will need more SMEs, more investment, and of course, to create more jobs for young people. I want to create a sovereign fund like in many other countries, which will support young people, assist them, and even rescue businesses that are in difficulty. I could help companies during their first 3 years, the most challenging years for a new business, by supporting their startup funds and enabling them to have employees during those first 3 years.
Jean-Louis Bion, current CEO of Sifka Group, an Ivorian agro-industrial giant and the country's largest private employer after the state, with 33,000 direct jobs, has never hidden his presidential ambitions. After the death of his mentor, Henri Konan Bédier, in 2023, Jean-Louis Bion expressed his determination to take the reins of the oldest political party in Côte d'Ivoire. Despite the election of Tidjane Thiam as the head of the political party, the youngest candidate in the upcoming October presidential election hasn't abandoned his ambitions. He is calling on the leader of the oldest Ivorian party to join his cause.
I called on Tidjane Thiam, saying, let's set our differences aside. It's time now to put the nation first. I'm asking him to join me and for the PDCI to support me so that we can achieve a true victory.
This persistence has earned him several summonses before the PDCI Disciplinary Council, since his candidacy is not supported by the party's executives. Jean-Louis Bion decided to launch the Democratic Congress, CODE, a political movement aimed at winning the presidency. Far from being a temporary alliance, it is an initiative to put power back at the service of the people. Jean-Louis Billon promises that once elected, he will place women and youth at the heart of his governance. He also plans to reform housing, improve the status of civil servants, and reconcile Côte d'Ivoire with itself.
That was Francis Boniface profiling Jean-Louis Billon, or the hope for renewal. Now, on this Tuesday, we continue a series of reports on Côte d'Ivoire's key sectors ahead of the presidential election this Saturday, October 25. After focusing on agriculture on Monday, we now take a look at the sectors of governance and justice. Here is a report by Abdullahi Hassan.
Since the post-election crisis of 2011, which left thousands dead, Côte d'Ivoire has undergone a profound transformation in terms of governance. The incumbent president, Alassane Ouattara, made good governance in all sectors a top priority to radically transform the country. Over the years, successive technocratic governments have accelerated development. Several major projects have been launched across the country, and numerous infrastructures have emerged with an impressive road network by West African standards. A plan was implemented to attract investors back, and many have since returned in large numbers. The fight against corruption has been intensified through the Clean Hands operation, leading to arrests in the public administration and helping to clean up public finances. The administration has also been modernized. After 26 years of absence, Côte d'Ivoire now sits on the United Nations Security Council, a sign of its regained diplomatic credibility. With the revival of its economy, the country plays a leading role in the sub-region to the point that it is often accused of being over-indebted, something economists say is not true. Babu Mesa is an economist.
Le pays n'est pas surendetté, mais il faut faire très attention sur ces paramètres.
The country isn't excessively indebted, but it's crucial to closely monitor its financial parameters. According to established criteria, such as the convergence standards of organizations like ECOWAS and UEMOA, as well as international benchmarks, the recommended debt limit should not exceed 70%. Why is this important? If a country crosses this threshold, it is considered over-indebted, which raises concerns about whether its economy can sustain itself and repay the debt. The call for caution, particularly in African nations, stems from the fragile state of their economic mechanisms. For example, Côte d'Ivoire is nearing the 70% limit, which is alarming enough to urge immediate action. While the situation isn't critical yet, this threshold provides a clear warning that further borrowing should be approached carefully.
One of Côte d'Ivoire's main challenges remains security. The country shares borders with states heavily affected by terrorism. For years, the Ivorian government has been implementing programs to empower communities in border areas to prevent the infiltration of terrorist groups. The army has been strengthened, as has security cooperation with neighboring countries and foreign armies. Security is, in fact, one of the reasons that motivated President Alassane Ouattara to run for a fourth presidential term. Geoffrey Kwao is an Ivorian political analyst.
There is a pressing security concern in the sub-region due to frequent terrorist activity affecting areas surrounding us. Neighboring countries such as Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger experience near-daily incidents linked to this movement. Even Côte d'Ivoire has faced attacks by terrorist groups, notably in 2016, with additional incursions in the northern part of the country.
On the judicial front, the country has reinforced its legal framework to combat various scourges, from corruption to terrorism, major crime, trafficking, and cybercrime, among others. However, the dark spot, according to civil society and human rights organizations, is the restriction of certain freedoms, particularly the right of opposition groups to demonstrate. The mass evictions in certain areas of Abidjan were also very poorly received. Nevertheless, by regaining peace, stability, and sustained growth, Côte d'Ivoire has become, in 15 years, a model of resilience and development in Africa. In early October, the government launched a platform allowing citizens to consult government achievements from 2011 to this year, 2025.
Abdullah Hassan's report focusing on the sectors of governance and justice. Meanwhile, the presidential election campaigns in Côte d'Ivoire is struggling to gain momentum across the country. The campaign, which officially began on Friday, October 10, is scheduled to end on Thursday, October 23. Across much of the country, the electoral atmosphere remains tense, with indicators of fear and uncertainty and uneven mobilization among voters and political parties. Observers note that the slow pace of the campaign reflects both logistical challenges and lingering political tensions ahead of the vote. In addition, several prefects have reported a notably low rate of voter card distribution at polling stations across the country. Initially scheduled to end on October 20, the distribution period has now been extended by 2 additional days by the Independent Electoral Commission (IEC). This extension comes against a backdrop of rising tension, with opposition-led demonstrations resuming in several localities since Monday. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar and at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Rift Valley fever virus spreads across 6 of Senegal's 14 regions, with 21 confirmed deaths. Audit exposes systemic weaknesses in Liberia, puts domestic debt above $92 million. In Côte d'Ivoire, attention marks electoral campaign ahead of Saturday's poll. And still ahead in the news, Ghanaian police deploy special team to investigate the mysterious death of Senegalese goalkeeper in Kumasi. We do have the press review, a guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget you can listen to us live on wadr.org and follow live streamings on YouTube and Facebook. In Ghana, the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yahuno, has deployed a special investigation team to Kumasi to support the Ashanti Regional Police Command. The mission is to probe the mysterious death of a 20-year-old Senegalese goalkeeper, Chez. According to initial reports, the young footballer was rushed to the Manhia Government Hospital by a man claiming to be his brother after allegedly sustaining multiple abdominal injuries. Toure was, however, pronounced dead on arrival. WDL's Accra correspondent Nadi Tete reports.
The Special Investigations Team sent by the IGP is made up of homicide detectives, forensic experts and intelligence officers who will support the Ashanti Regional CID in piecing together the circumstances leading to Chez Toure's death. Preliminary findings suggest that on October 16, 2025, a man known only as Issa and claiming to be Toure's brother took him to the Manhia Government Hospital in critical condition, stating that he had been involved in an accident. Medical personnel, however, confirmed that Toure was brought in dead. His body was later deposited at the Ebenezer mortuary in Tafo, Kumasi. The Ashanti Regional Criminal Investigations Department has since taken over the case, focusing on verifying Issa's account and tracing the event prior to the alleged accident. In a statement, the Ghana Police Service assured the public of a thorough and transparent investigation, emphasizing its commitment to ensuring justice is served. The police is also urging anyone with relevant information to contact the Ashanti Regional Police CID in Kumasi. For WEDR, Nadi Tete, Accra.
In our special report, we take you to the Gambia, where citizens are expressing concerns about the rising cost of fish. Fishermen, middlemen, and officials are blaming each other for the rise in costs. However, one thing everyone agrees on is that fish, once a staple in Gambian households, is quickly becoming a luxury item. Let's join Sankule Jank, who visited the busy fishing hub of Tangier.
On the golden source of Tangier, boats return from the Atlantic under the morning sun, nets heaving with the sea's bounty. But beneath the surface of this coastal rhythm, there is discontent. The price of fish, once cheap and plentiful, has skyrocketed, and with it, frustration. Local fishermen like Momodu Sar say their catch is dwindling, and they know exactly who to blame.
They are not supposed to go beyond the 9 nautical miles, but they consistently disregard that law. They often switch off their engines and lights. And worst of all, those responsible for enforcing the law, the Navy, are not doing so. How can the Navy enforce the law when they lack proper boats and don't even have enough fuel to patrol?
As Momodu speaks, others nod in agreement. The sea, they say, is no longer theirs. Just a few meters from the shore, another group is also feeling the pinch. The fish vendors, mostly women, who brave the sun, the smell, and now the soaring prices. Nyimasata Sane, a fish vendor, explains why fish is so expensive now.
Back then, a pan of fish like this cost between $3,000 and $4,000. But now, it's selling for $12,000. Take grunt, for example. It's now priced at $15,000. This same fish used to sell for $3,000 or $6,000 at most. Today, a wheelbarrow of grunt costs as much as $30,000.
But is the government listening? At the Ministry of Fisheries, officials say they are aware of the situation. See, the drama works for the Gambia's Fishery Department.
Not long ago, some 3 days ago, some artisanal fishermen came here lodging their complaint that they had issues with the industrial trawlers. We wrote a report pertaining what happened and the videos that they saw us as proofs, and then we forwarded to the MCS unit, which I learned about that they went there and then they had a table discussion. This is what we can do for them as technical advisors on the ground.
Meanwhile, back in Tanje Beach landing site, Momodu repairs his nets and Nyimasata parks her unsold fish. But between the tide and the trade, a community waits, hoping the next catch brings not just fish, but fairness.
Sankuli Janko filed that report.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, we head back to Monrovia as we join Abraham Parker for the newspaper review.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Press Review from Monrovia. We begin with the news, the nation's news, and it goes with these stories. Delay in salary payments. Finance Ministry discloses. Foreign Minister commends Boaka's diplomatic vision as Liberia strengthens global standing. And an editorial on the nation's news says, we hailed retired soldiers for service to country. Our next stop is Front Page Africa newspaper that goes with these stories. Not a deterrent to crime. Campaign to abolish the death penalty gains new life as human rights advocates warn Ekuonoman support for war crimes code. Bad management practice and 40 deals. GAC uncovers at LEC. No board meetings, no strategic plan for years. Major irregularities in CLSG and other agreements. Rich nation, poor country. Senator Bwesonka Finde calls for 30% materials production sharing amendment of revenue code to benefit Liberia. That does it for this edition of Press Review from Liberia's capital, Monrovia. And thanks for listening.
Many thanks, Abraham Parker.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Now, in this part of the news, we take you back to the Gambia, where frustration is growing as fish, once a cheap and reliable source of protein, becomes harder to find and more expensive to buy. From the coastal communities to urban markets, Gambians are decrying the sharp decline in fish stocks, raising alarm over food security and livelihoods. In this interview, Lamin Bojang, chairman of the Tanje Beach Management Committee, speaks out on the sharp decline in fish stocks along the Gambia's coast and the soaring prices that have made fish once a daily staple a luxury many ordinary Gambians can no longer afford.
When you come on the side of fishing, Tanje is one of the biggest fishing landing sites in the Gambia. And then when you come to the ratio of the fishermen, we have the largest population of fishermen in the Gambia. And then the question you are asking, the decline of fish or the problem of fish caught in the Gambian waters. is due to registrations of trawlers. We have many fishing trawlers being registered, and then I think government is going to look on that side, because we just lay out complaints to the government to look on that side. That is why we have lower catches. Majority of Gambians depend on fish. How much impact is the declining of fish having on Gambian families, in particular this area? Yeah, when you come to decline of fish, that impact it causes to the Gambian populace is because of the Gambian income is not that much big. That is why majority of Gambians depend on their livelihoods on fish productions. When the fish is being declined, it will have a high impact at the market. The cost will increase. When the cost also increase, the layman cannot afford it. That also brings an impact to the family for the consumption of fish. That is why we have many complaints from the layman that the fish price is being increased, the fish price is costed, the decline of fish and this, because they cannot afford it. And then it's their livelihood, and then it's their fish. We all have right to benefit from our fish. But it's Gambian water. We fish in the Gambian waters, and the byproduct of the fish have to come for the consumption, the daily consumption of the Gambians. We even have the saying that said Gambia force. Even you come to the white fish, if one boat caught the white fish, we will not allow the fish to go beyond Gambia. Then the Gambians have to buy that fish and use it for our daily consumption. Though we have a problem in the pricing of fish, because many people has been engaged in the buying and selling of fish, and then that is why it goes from one trend to another, from the fisherman to a middleman, from the middleman to a woman to a market vendor, and then to the consumer. When it goes to the consumer, the price will be increased.
Lamin Bojang is the chairman of the Tanja Beach Management Committee in the Gambia. In sport news, the Nigeria Football Federation (NFF) has confirmed that the Super Eagles will commence their training camp in Rabat, Morocco on November 9, 2025, as preparations intensify for their crucial 2026 FIFA World Cup African Playoff campaign. Nigeria will open their playoff quest with a semi-final clash against Gabon on November 13, with victory in that encounter earning them a spot in the final on November 16, where they will face the winner between Cameroon and DR Congo. The eventual champion of the playoff will qualify for the Inter-Confederation playoff slated for March 2026, which offers a final opportunity to book a place at the FIFA World Cup. Although the Confederation of African Football CAF is yet to confirm the exact venues for the playoff fixtures, the NFF has already swung into action to ensure smooth preparations. Meanwhile, Nottingham Forest has appointed Sean Dyche as their new head coach on a deal until 2027. The Premier League club announced Tuesday the 54-year-old former Burnley and Everton boss has replaced Ange Postecoglou after the Australian was sacked on Saturday following just 40 days in charge at the City Ground. Dyche, a Forest trainee under celebrated manager Brian Clough, becomes the club's third boss this season in what is his first job since the Englishman left Everton at the start of this year. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Fali Lusso and Ismaila Kamara for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, X, TikTok, Instagram, at WDR English. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.